Rolling. So first off, welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Tonight is Austin Avanza's first Amplify Your Voice series event. So we are super excited to have special guest Cicely Carr, and she will introduce herself and give us some more information about all the amazing things that she has done in the education world. And I'm super blessed and excited that she's come to speak with our group tonight. So welcome and thank you so much for being here. There is a link in the chat and I will put it in one more time. If you want to follow along or just want to have the resources that we share out tonight and all the contact information and all that, that is in the chat. Jolisa, if I could ask a favor from you, since I'll be doing the recording piece, if you see other people come in, do you mind just putting it back in the chat so that they can get that link? I would appreciate that. So our agenda for tonight is just a quick welcome. We've been doing that for the last few minutes, so thank you for everyone who has introduced themselves already. We're going to do a quick overview of our new affinity group called Austin Avanza. Then Cicely will take it over and do our Amplify Your Voice workshop for tonight, and we'll share some ways that you can get involved with Austin Avanza as we move forward. My name is Coral Zayas. I'm a dual language teacher here in Leander ISD. I work at the new Danielson Middle School, so I'm super excited that I get the opportunity to help build Leander ISD's middle school dual language program, and we're having a blast. So I teach social studies and I teach introduction to STEM to my students, and out of surprise, it was supposed to be just 6th graders, and now we've added more sections of kids, so now I'm teaching 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So it's been a lot of fun these last few weeks. I am also the Ready to Lead Fellow with Teach Plus Texas, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. So I am the founder and group organizer for Austin Avanza, our new affinity group in this area. So just a quick general overview and a history of how we began. So we just kicked off this year in February our new fellowship. Teach Plus Texas is part of a nationwide teacher leadership advocacy organization called Teach Plus. So they have state chapters in, I think it's about 15 states now. And their whole purpose is to empower teachers to lead through policy. So they have an advocacy branch and practice. They have a teacher instructional leadership branch. They just recently launched a new fellowship for educators of color, and it was called the Ready to Lead Fellowship. So I am one of 5 regional fellows around the state of Texas, and I am in charge of the Austin metro area. So our purpose and the establishment of Austin Avanza really has 2 main parts. Our focus is on both retention and recruitment of educators of color. So our focus was to establish a regional affinity group, which again, we just kicked off in July. For educators of color and their allies to help meet the needs and interests of our community. And then on the recruitment side, we work together with those educators and partners throughout the Austin area to create innovative solutions to help increase the teacher pipeline, especially for future educators of color in our region. And then why are we called Austin Avanza? Well, Austin represents the metro area that we hope to be able to represent the entire metro area. And then Avanza is actually a word in Spanish, and it means to move or to advance. So that's how we came up with Austin Avanza. We have 3 pillars that we really focus on, and our pillars really came from teacher retention research. There's a report that was done with the Education Trust in collaboration with Teach Plus that was called If You Listen, We Will Stay. And so we really focused on what is the research showing that really helps to recruit and retain our educators of color. And we focused on 3 of those for our particular group: community, creating a community to support current educators of colors, being focused, very solutions focused, so that we can find new and innovative ways to help bring in more educators of color and keep them once we have them in the profession. Mentorship, so that's creating opportunities for both future, new, and current educators of color and helping them kind of find their niche and within education. And then, as you're part of here tonight, one of my favorite parts is everything about voice. We're really truly here to elevate educator voices, especially educators of color, but we really hope to co-create those with our partners and with our allies throughout the metro area. So Cicely, I'm gonna kick it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much for having me. I am honored and I feel very like this is awesome. I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you're doing over there or down there in Austin. That's very exciting. A little bit about me. I go by Cicely Renee on my platforms, but I am Cicely Carr. Born and raised in Minneapolis. This is my 5th year here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This is my 5th year teaching. When I moved to Texas, I literally started life over. I've always been in the educational field though, so like either after school programs, a Girl Scout full-time counselor, neighborhood development center where we help people, well, we gave educational resources and money to people who wanted to start their own businesses for minorities, immigrants, and low income in the Twin Cities area. So this is my 5th year in teaching, 3 years in SPED, 2 years gen ed, and it's all been around English because I love writing, I love literature, I love reading, I love empowering people to use their voices, find the words to help them, express how they feel. I am a blogger, so I started blogging a long time ago, but my professional blog is called the Bougie Black Blogger, and it's a lifestyle blog, mostly just like uplifting, self-care, arts and culture, just being in the city of Dallas and exploring and just, all of that. And then recently I started a business called Heartwork Collective, where I do like therapeutic art workshops, mostly writing and creating, tapping into, a way of healing through creation. So that's a little bit about me. And I'm a fur mom, yes. All right. So we have the Amplify Your Educator voice. And yes, my undergrad, business real quick, my undergrad was business administration. And I did 2 years of City Year, which is an AmeriCorps program in Miami. And that's when I got my Master's of Education and Leadership, thinking I wanted to be a principal because I just love, working with students. And now I don't want to be a principal. So I don't know what to do with that degree right now. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, all right. So let's get a feel of who is in the room. You can come off mute if you want to, or you could just put it in the chat box. So I want you to answer how many years you've been teaching. Have you felt comfortable using your voice to address your concerns or to share your story? Or why did you decide to join this particular workshop? So do I have any
And Cicely, I'm just going to jump in real quick.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I forgot to mention this before you kicked off. Anytime that Cicely opens it up to the room to chat, we really focus on equity of voice. So if you'd like to share, please write the word next in the chat. That way we know who's up and make sure that everybody gets a chance to share.
Beautiful. All right. Next, all right, Ms. Valerie, go ahead. You have the floor.
So I've been in education 20 years, 10 in Texas and 10 in Louisiana. And this field that I'm in as a librarian in particular is not represented by diversity. And I feel important that we encourage people to go into the field of education. That I work with on my current campus are still very divided, especially with the politics right now. I don't feel that I use my voice as much as I could as an ally because the fear of the backlash that I am a public, servant, and I do serve the public.
Mm-hmm. That's real. Thank you. I appreciate that. That is real. most definitely. All right, who else do we have? And not everyone has to go if you don't want to.
I don't mind going. This is my 7th year as a bilingual teacher in the state of Texas. I've been teaching a little bit longer, but in other states and at different levels. I'm pretty comfortable in sharing my voice orally, but I think because I've had a lot of teachers growing up that said my writing wasn't very strong, I tended to internalize that a lot. And so it's actually been really hard for me to kind of get to the comfort level and the confidence level with writing to share my thoughts in that format. So that's why I'm really excited about this workshop, because I'm hoping that it will give me some, inspiration to try it and go forth in an area that is not really something I have a lot of comfort in yet. Jolisa, you can go next.
Sure. I actually know Coral through the program Teach Plus. I've been in public education, a teacher for 26 years, and right now I work as a regional advocacy director for Raise Your Hand Texas. You were asking about how you feel about sharing your voice. I probably worry about every single thing I ever say, but I've learned to just go ahead and say it even when you're worried, and that shaky voices are better than no voices. But it's still something that even now, even though this is my career and I help other people, it's still something that I spend time thinking about, is if my voice is one that I want to share.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, that's awesome. So the past couple of weeks, I love my peers and whatnot. I do. And I admire that they are comfortable in speaking up and questioning things. And so I'm always inspired to see that. So I have a blessed group of people, or I'm blessed to be in a group of people who are not afraid. And so it allows me to kind of speak up a little bit more. So that makes me excited. Here, Coral, this might be for you. Okay. So not every amazing writer is a prolific writer, but their voice still matters. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, because when I did not go to school for English, I have no idea how I started writing. And I felt like my writing has only gotten better with practice and then becoming an English teacher. And I don't know how I passed that test, but I did. So, I mean, I know the basics, but we don't have to be like this prolific think piece, but there are still things that, need to be said, and that matters. All right. Thank you. All right, so today what we're going to talk about is why you should use your educated voice. And you can just do your voice in general, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be about education. Also, how to use it, where to use it, and then some extras and goodies. And so I really want this to be a dialogue, an open dialogue. So feel free to ask questions. If you know of anything, feel free to share your knowledge, your resources. Let this be a community workshop where I'm not only talking. Thank you. All right. So why use your educator voice? The main one is that you're a highly qualified teacher. I did not know about highly qualified until I started applying for jobs. And I'm like, how do you become highly qualified? But anyways, we have what, over 60 years of education combined in this room. That's a lot. We've invested like so much money, years learning. You're in the classroom teaching, sacrificing. Your voice is powerful. Like, there's a lot of people who are in positions that are telling us how we should run things, and they have never sat in a classroom teaching our youth, right? So that is one thing. Like, I just feel like you have a wealth of knowledge, whether it be a simple strategy on morning routines or something. It still is. It needs to be heard too, because there's a lot of like new teachers, Oh my gosh, I spelled overqualified wrong. Oh my gosh, sorry. But yes, so just knowing that you're a highly qualified educator, teacher, you know, like you have a lot of knowledge that needs to be shared. The second one is the censorship. I know a lot of people are afraid to use their voice. And I'm still one of those people. And when I got into teaching, like my blog was before teaching. And I have like a public profile and I would share stuff. And then I was like, oh my gosh, when I got into education, I was like, oh, I probably can't share certain things, right? I did get in trouble one year for sharing something and someone screenshot it and sent it to the administration. So it's just like, I feel like no matter, there are people watching, the censorship is real. However, if we aren't finding other avenues and sharing our knowledge, our expertise, our experiences, then like it's just gonna be a blanket. Like no one's really gonna know what it's really like. And so we do need some people to like step out of that comfort zone. Like, because as a blogger, a lot of people get reported a lot for a lot of the stuff that they say. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can, you know, use or where to use it so that it's not censored, right? The next one is just no seat. So I don't know if y'all know this phrase, I need a seat at the table, like to be at the head of the table, making decisions. And so many times there's no seats available. So it's like, we need to create our own table, which is why I like this affinity group that Coral put together. It's like you're creating a table, you're providing platforms, you're giving people opportunities. Things have changed a lot. And so we need to take advantage of like the different opportunities. What are your thoughts about this? Like, why would someone use their educator voice? If you were to give me another tip, what would you say? Sorry if I talk like a teacher and I want you to, no. If nothing, that is okay.
I think it can be thought about on different levels, because like when I'm thinking about answering your question, I'm thinking about, yes, you're right, people are making decisions that affect us in their classrooms, but I think I want to find my voice and help the people on my campus at the local level, like on my campus level. Like I don't even feel like there's a seat at the table sometimes at that level.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, Valerie. I know that I had worked at a lot of schools and I felt exactly that way, that it seemed like you could be seeing potential solutions to problems that others might have been complaining about, or maybe they weren't complaining, but it was a general concern, right? But you didn't really have that space and you really didn't seem to even be allowed to have that space. So how do we find ways to really make sure that our voices are being heard, because we are the front line, you know, we are the ones with our students. And so it is important that our voices are heard, because if you don't know that space, you shouldn't be making decisions about it without talking to people that are in those spaces.
Right. And often the people that want to have a voice that don't find a seat at the table end up leaving the campus, and it ends up being a huge loss.
Yeah. And so there's so many things we can unpack there, and so many different ways we can go with the teachers leaving, not being heard, and that's how that does a disservice to the students, right? But yeah, all right. Well, thank y'all. All right. So how to use your classroom voice, or not your classroom voice, your educator voice. Let's see. So like your classroom, your instruction. I posted the other day that someone posted a meme where it was like, if you tell your students your political beliefs or whatever, you're failing as a teacher. But then I was just like, I asked my friends and my coworkers, friends, and I was like, what do you think about that? And they're like, no, I know that great teachers can do both. Like, you can say it, but you also have a discussion. So being able to have those, you know, conversations with your students in a non-biased way. But yeah, so like being able to empower your students, because if you don't speak up, a lot of kids are going to struggle to really fully grasp a lot of different things. And I know, so I'm a very, so I teach English, and a lot of when we teach English, we're talking about themes, we're talking about, you know, symbols and just a whole bunch of stuff. And it's just like everything just opens up. The Great Gatsby, where we're about the American dream, and like having those conversations, those real world connections with the students, and being honest with them, and, you know, tapping into that. I just think that it's powerful, and not just to only sit and talk about, you know, your content, but in a huge way, if you will. Another is addressing issues at the admin level. I have not done this. I have not. So I'm just getting out of my comfort zone in my educational, like my career. So this is the first year where I've taken leadership roles. I'm over the English department co-leader. I'm also doing like technology and just a lot of different things. But I have not reached the admin level. So I really want to get there one day. And I'm hoping that like talking about this helps empower me to be able to speak up on behalf of, you know, our youth, our young people, our peers, other things, or other people. And then another one is like taking it to the community. And so I know, let's see, was that Jolisa that you said something about how you wanted to work in the community or your district, or was that Valerie?
I think that was Valerie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, my goal is to definitely create a community. The job that I took, this is just my second year at this school in the library, and they didn't have any active programs, and there is no active PTO, PTA community. So definitely trying to figure out where my voice should be impactful in the community as well.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, so let's go to the next slide. All right, so we're going to talk about using it through writing. And as a blogger and an English teacher, I love writing. And I'm just like, there's so many different ways to share your story and get your voice out there, and how to use your educator voice through writing. So I know I follow a lot of not a lot of them, but I follow a lot of like viral teachers where they talk about their day, and just like they're real with it. Like, I'm just like, I love that. And so a lot of the times though, the censorship, or, you know, admin saying you cannot say that, you cannot post that. But I'm like, this is my story. Like, I own my story, and that I should be able to use that in an impactful, powerful way, and not to diminish anything or, you know, make anything look bad. But this is my words, this is my story, and I deserve to share it. So we have personal narratives, you do memoirs. There are, you know, op-eds and news outlets. So if you see an article and you're like, what is this? You can respond to that. And like, there are different, your local newsletter or newspaper, I think, yes. And just your opinion about things. And so not so much as just your opinion. I know Coral just recently said solutions oriented. So I believe that if we speak up, right, we're talking, we're stating, you know, issues or whatever it may be, it always be solution oriented. Like, always have something to back it up, so then you don't get in trouble for saying certain things, right? Also publication. So I know if you want to start writing, depending on what kind of writing you want to do, if it's just your personal experience teaching, or suggestions or helping other people, there's publications like Edutopia. That's a popular one. The Educator's Room, We Are Teachers and Through Education, and there's so many more that they're looking for educators to write for them. So that's just one way. What are your thoughts about that? Have you ever thought about writing personal narratives about your school life, your educator career? No? Yeah.
I definitely think that I've thought about it, and I always kind of go back and really ponder, similar to what you're saying, like which part of the story is the right part to share, and so that it is impactful and it is kind of getting the message out to the right people and which audience to direct it to. But I think you have some really good suggestions, and some other ones are Education Week is another one that accepts teacher stories, and there's a few more, but that's definitely a good starting place. And I know that you're going to talk about one more later, so I'm going to wait till you guys talk.
Yeah. And so also, like, you don't have to be this amazing writer. Like, most of us, I mean, we all have degrees, right? So we know how to write papers. We know how to research. We can put things into, I feel like we're better writers than a lot of these other people who are out here putting news articles out there and blogging and stuff like that. And they're viral. And I'm just like, what? You spelled that wrong. Like I spelled the other word wrong. But we we're highly qualified educators. We have done the work, and so, and a lot of these places, some of these places even pay. So if you're looking to get some extra money, you can definitely do that too. You can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so here are some other places to use your educator voice. All right, so like the other one, the publications collaboration with educational platforms. So that's the examples that I just gave. Also blogs. So if you there's a lot of teacher blogs out there, and as a blogger and a full-time teacher and a creative, I struggle with being consistent in writing content. And so these educator blogs, yeah, they probably are like, I need someone to write some articles for me. So if you find, different places, different blogs who are promoting maybe their tutoring service or whatever, you can connect with them and just be like, okay, I want to write for you. You charge them or do it, just to get your name out there. You can do magazines. My favorite right now is Medium. I want to get back into Medium a lot more, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Medium is awesome, and there's a lot of people that use it. There is a negative, like some feedback from writers who are like, these bloggers get on here and now it's saturated, but that's okay. Medium is awesome. I love the stories. And LinkedIn, like, I don't know if you're on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn allows you to do articles now. And I think that I need to do that a little bit more. But you can write blogs or articles on there and share your work and have people looking for you. And then also your own website. So if you wanted to take this and become like a blogger, an educator blogger, or just someone who wants to share their voice, I highly recommend that. And so one thing Coral and I were talking about, she was like, do you want to share your name? So a lot of things, like we are afraid of, what will happen if we share something and all of a sudden someone finds it, right? And then they're like, oh, you wrote this. Well, we don't want this. So do you want to have a pen name, or do you want, to be anonymous? So there are different ways to work around it. But yeah, so if you do blow up and you have a pen name, you're gonna have to come out and let them know so you can get your accolades, your hand claps, and all that. But yeah, do you guys have any questions about this or your thoughts? Have you ever thought about using this as, or using any of those as a platform?
I read the book Shake Up Learning, and she recommended kind of what you're saying, like get out there when you do use your voice. And I asked my library coordinator for the district, like if we have a Twitter account, social media accounts, and we're representing ourselves as educators, like what did she recommend? And she, you know, kind of said what you're saying, you can go either way, but I don't know what makes me comfortable enough to put my voice out there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
And I think that's a really good point, Valerie, and it definitely something to you know, really be thinking about, because you kind of have to make the decision of, do I want it to be attached to my name, or do I want to start sharing my story, but I kind of want to wait to share my name, you know? So I definitely think that is a personal choice. And you mentioned Shake Up Learning, and that's such a great book. But I definitely think it's a very personal decision of how do we want to share our stories, but I still think that they're all very important to be shared.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. All right. All right. So we kind of talked about this, but if you have anything, if you want to chat, we can have a conversation about sharing your story, or what would you share? Like, what do you think people are looking for if they're like Googling, you know, educator voices? What are some topics that people really want to know about? What do you guys think? And then what can you write about? Like, what are some topics?
I'd love to hear what Valerie would like to share about. I definitely would love to hear your thoughts.
Digital and equity.
Ooh, tell me more, or tell us more.
Well, I'm seeing that our district, because she's in Leander and I'm not far from her. I'm in Pflugerville ISD. It's my second year in Pflugerville. And we just purchased 16,000 Chromebooks to give to our students in grades 6 through 12. So when I'm handing out a Chromebook to a student and they say they don't have the internet, how have I helped them? And telling me that we have the internet in the parking lot of the school still doesn't help, because students are expected to follow a daily schedule. When the students lose the charger or it's left at another parent's house, I don't have another one to give them. And I just feel like a big part of the population is their needs are not being met, and they're falling further and further behind the more we're doing virtual learning. They are not getting one-on-one, you know, instruction. They're not at school getting moral support, SEL support.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And I know I'm in West Dallas, which like about 90% of the residents are low income or in poverty, like the students we serve, but they are gentrifying it around. So it's like changing, but we still have this bubble of students who are living in poverty. And a lot of them are like, we don't have internet. So then we give them the hotspot. Like it was just, it's definitely, it's not an even playing field at all. All right, Jaleesa.
I just really liked what Valerie was talking about. I think sometimes we forget that we are experts. You know, Valerie, you have a perspective that would be really interesting to policymakers who are wanting to decide how to address the digital divide, but may not have the expertise of knowing exactly what that policy look like. And, you know, there's a tendency for everyone to think they're an expert at schools because we went through them. But really, it's the teachers who can provide that really expert advice. And so I'd just be really interested to read your thoughts, Valerie.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And what topics would y'all want to write about? Would you tend to follow like what's in the news or like trending topics, or is there something in particular? Like I'm kind of like, when I see an injustice and I'm passionate, then that's what I would want to write about.
Yeah.
So I've hung back a little bit. I've actually blogged for organizations before. So, but it was my passionate areas. Assessment was something I blogged about. Most recently, I blogged about the response of schools during COVID and how schools are the hub of our communities. But usually for me, it's pulling teeth unless it's something that's important to me. And once it's important to me, the words just flow.
And I appreciate you saying that, Jolisa, because I definitely agree. I think that if it was anything that I needed to write about, then it had to be something that I am passionate about. And I think that that's where that like scared line is, you know, because I feel like you may know an issue very, very well, and you know you have enough background to share that with others, but at the same time, it's well, at least for me, I think that writing anxiety for me is how others are going to react to it, you know. So I definitely, for me, it's the ESL learners, the digital divide that Valerie mentioned is definitely something I've seen my entire career with the students that I've worked with. And I think truly now, it's in the last year, maybe a little bit more, I think it's shifted even more away from not only the issues that I'm seeing that are addressing my students, but also the ones of my colleagues, because I have felt, especially in the last 2 years, that we are always, it's in our nature to be student focused. But I think by not focusing on the teachers and what our colleagues need, I think that that's where we're missing an opportunity to make sure that we are truly retaining teachers by providing them the support they need. And I don't think that we're talking about that enough, and just teacher mental health and those kinds of things. So I think my perspective has really changed in the last year or two to think more on my colleagues, not just my students, because it's hard to think like any of us could walk away at any minute. But how do we not do that? How do we make sure that people feel supported enough that they want to continue in this profession and continue doing the work that we have to do?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So good. I don't know what I would write about. No. So I really am all about like access and opportunities. So I'm always like, a couple years ago when I was working with Coral at and you know, I forgot what it was called, but it was like a college and career, and I went on a tour. I did the, oh my gosh, I forgot, NACAC, for counselors, college counselors, and I saw that there was this thing called independent educational consultants or something like that. And I was like, I would love to be that for the inner city or the low income or underrepresented youth, and just provide opportunities, resources for not just the students, but the parents, because I feel like the parents have no idea how to help their kids. And so I think mine would be focused on adults and how they work with their kids. And then you brought up social emotional learning, the SEL, and I'm like, man, I'm wondering if parents need help, you know, doing that as well. And so that gives me some really good thoughts too. I'm glad we're having this conversation. All right. So we got some goodies. I appreciate y'all talking to. Well, Valerie, go ahead.
I was gonna ask you, so once you put your words out there and like it's on the blog, and like Jalissa was saying, she's blogged. So sometimes you're picking something that you know people are gonna see. Like you absolutely know if you respond to an op-ed or you know, they're gonna see it. But if it's your personal blog, are you just letting it be out there in the universe, or you're actively promoting for people to read it?
Personally, I'm actively promoting. So I use a lot of Pinterest. Like at one point, I was getting about 106,000 monthly viewers of my pins. And that was amazing. I was like, no wonder my blog is staying active. But I have dropped because I went back to work. Yeah, so blogging groups or just different tags, sharing it with your friends, getting a group like the Austin Avanza, like if you wanted to share, I'm sure they'll promote it. But yeah, for my personal blog, my business blog, I definitely do a lot of marketing there.
And
Thank
I
you.
think,
You're welcome.
Valerie, I think that I've blogged before. Like, for some reason, I think that blogging and like op-ed writing to me are very different, because I feel like blogging is a conversation, versus an op-ed is opinion and solutions focused. So I feel like there's a little bit of a difference. I think that you have a little more creativity when it comes to the general blogging. But that was the whole reason we wanted to start our Amplify Your Voice series with this one about writing, was because our affinity group is starting a Medium channel, and we're wanting to share educator voices from our region through that, and be able to give them the option of staying anonymous but still sharing their voice, or sharing their voice, like their name, and amplifying that, since we have the support of Teach Plus and other organizations we're working with now in the Austin area to help amplify that. So whether it's retweeting it, resharing it on Facebook, because I think that having others share your story takes some of that work off of yourself, and you're not necessarily having to focus on doing that piece of it on your own, but instead you're able to connect with individuals and organizations that want to keep amplifying your story, so they keep sharing it. And I definitely think that that is a great way to start, is connecting with others. If starting on your own and doing all the marketing and things like that on your own is a lot to do. I mean, we're a full-time teacher, we get that. So that's definitely something that we wanted to start providing, that opportunity, so that educators were comfortable, if they wanted to share their story but stay anonymous, they could. Or if they wanted to share it with their names, we could make sure that they were shared out, and keep amplifying it through partnerships and individuals.
Most definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So if you wanted to start your own, I'm gonna give this is a shameless plug. I also sell domains and websites, WordPress sites. So if you wanted to start your own blog, you can go to hothosting.vip and support a woman-owned business. Yes. Yes, that's a shameless plug. And go ahead and follow me if you want to on Bougie Black Blogger. That's Instagram now.
So we just wanted to share out, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming out and supporting our first Amplify Your Voice series event. We will be having many more to come, because that's definitely one of our important pillars, and we are so excited to keep sharing ways to do that and connecting educators to be able to do that. One of our pillars was community, that we mentioned earlier. We meet every first Tuesday of the month. So our next meetup is Tuesday, October the 6th at 5:30. It is a space for both educators of colors and allies, and we're working on creating some of those unique spaces for different groups that wanting to kind of branch off. So but everyone is welcome at monthly meetings, educators of color and allies. So that's our next community event coming up in October. And we're super excited to have two special guests. You met one of them tonight. Jolisa Hoover is talking about advocacy and how teachers can be advocates at the local and statewide level. That was one of the requests that we had teachers ask about in the summer. So we're excited to have Jolisa speak on that next month. And then we just confirmed today, and we're super, super excited that one of UT's professors, Dr. Tracy Flores, she's one of the professors in the Language and Literacy Department in the College of Education, is going to help us out by doing one specifically focused on Hispanic and Latinx educators to kind of round out Hispanic Heritage Month. So we're really excited to share those. So definitely we share our events on all our social media platforms, on our website, in our newsletter, and on Eventbrite as well. So even if an event isn't necessarily one that you're particularly interested in, we are a very new group, so we would love the help of just sharing the post or retweeting it if you're on Twitter, or just helping us spread the word that we're here, and our entire goal is to really amplify current educators' voices and help support our new educators coming into our profession. Those are all of the places where we are: our Facebook page, our Twitter, our LinkedIn group, and then our website. Super important, there's no www. It's just austinavanza.org. And then if you want to contact me directly at any point, that's our group email, my direct LinkedIn, and how to reach me on Twitter. But want to open it up to any other questions, if anyone has any more, before we end our evening tonight. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much for coming out tonight. Cicely, did you want to add anything else before?
I appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you for the conversation, the dialogue. And I mean, that's probably the teacher in me where I'm like, I need, conversation. And so I appreciate it. I love hearing everyone's voices. I loved it. Thank you again for having me, Coral. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We're very excited that you took the time out to share some of your knowledge with us today. So thank you so much. And again, to everyone that was able to come out this evening, thank you so much for spending an hour of your day with us. We know it's late in the evening and you've been teaching or working all day, so we appreciate you coming out tonight. And hopefully you learned a little bit and you can continue to amplify your voice. And please stay connected. We're here to help continue to amplify educator voices. So thank you for coming tonight, and we look forward to seeing you at another event or get together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
Very welcome.